Again, I appreciate being asked to be involved in this. It's always educational, and I really do appreciate the chance to be here and to do this. So on the ballot coming up in early April, Ward 1 members are going to have the question of recall of Nick Knoth, whether to have him stay in his position as that ward representative. Now, that's not part of the forum tonight, so we're not dealing with the recall of Councilman Knoth in Ward 1. We do have 2 candidates for Ward 2. There will be a new council member from that ward. And then we have Betsy Peters, who has been a representative of the 6th ward on the council for some time. And we're pleased that she's able to be here and also to deal with the questions and with the event tonight. This is the first one, as I said before, the school board candidates a while ago. This is the first one of what sometimes turns into a whole lot of forums over the next couple of months leading up to early April. And we appreciate all of you participating, also the crowd for you being here. We may or may not, we did not, I'm sorry, a while ago have chance for questions from the audience, but we'll see if we're able to get to those before we wrap up, which we're scheduled to do no later than 8:15 tonight. So we will alternate who goes first. The format is you'll have a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves, up to 2 minutes of that time, and then when I ask questions, we'll alternate who gets the first answer on those, and you'll have 90 seconds to answer. And then if you want to follow up, or if I feel like we need clarification, I'll give you another 30 seconds. And again, we're pretty lenient, although the signs are coming from the front row there. So they'll give you a countdown and tell you when you have 30 seconds left of that allotted time. And then they'll hold up the red stop sign. Finish your thought. Don't just cut it off. Feel comfortable finishing your thought. And then we do have people, this is a fairly small room. The acoustics are pretty good, so people can hear here, maybe without a microphone, but people who are watching and listening elsewhere, if you need to be closer to the microphone, you'll get the closer to the microphone sign. And that will mean that you need to get closer, obviously, to the microphone. So here we go. Let's start with Betsy Peters. She's one who's got experience, and so she will be the relaxed one on this front dais for tonight. You've been serving as a council member. The first question is, how do you see the role of a city council member, and what would be your top 3 priorities? Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Let me go back. I didn't let you all have a chance to do your introductions. I already jumped right into questions. Forget that question. Strike that from the record. We will have the jury and the court not know that that was already asked. Betsy Peters, go ahead and introduce yourself. You got 2 minutes to open up.
Okay. And I'm very happy to have the signs, because I was looking for my phone so I would have some idea what the times are. But so I'm Betsy Peters. I am the 6th Ward City Council person. I was originally elected in 2015. While I was still working as a physician over at the University of Missouri. I worked at the Women and Children's Hospital in the neonatal unit, so I got to take care of the small babies and had the privilege of helping them get started and knowing their parents. So I enjoyed that a lot, but I did finally retire in 2017. So since then, I've been just a retired physician and a city council person. I also have rental properties, so I spent most of the day working on that kind of stuff, so that keeps me out of trouble. I've enjoyed being on the city council, sometimes more than others. Depends what's happening that night or who's irate. I've gotten so far 1 call about roll carts today and 1 agitated email about it because they're delivering them in my neighborhood. But anyway. I've enjoyed being on the council, and I feel like with the amount of experience I have that it's worth staying on for another 3 years. I have no one running against me, so hopefully that means I will be reelected. I guess there could always be a write-in candidate, but we'll hope not. So, I've enjoyed meeting people, and I enjoy trying to help sort out the issues that the different neighborhoods have. So, and I feel like the council's moving forward now, so sort of fun to be on it. So. That's it.
Thank you. I thought this was going to be the first forum of council members in like decades that we wouldn't hear the 2 words roll carts, but you
no, sorry. That happened today in my neighborhood. That's why.
I understand. All right. The candidates for Ward 2, and we'll start with Robert Schreiber III. 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to this group.
Hi, my name is Robert Schreiber III, and I'm running for City Council 2nd Ward. I was born and raised here in Boone County. I grew up at the end of Inglewood Road next to the Mark Twain National Forest. went to school in Ashland. Go Eagles. I started building homes when I was 17 on my dad's house out in the country. I started as a laborer and then basically kept on with the same crew for the next 20 years, building houses throughout Boone County, in different states, and throughout the city of Columbia. I moved to Columbia in 2003. I was living with 6 friends at the time, just so we could afford the rent here in Columbia. It was a learning life skills like conflict resolution and who ate my sandwich out of the fridge. I ran my own construction business through the worst of the pandemic, keeping 5 people employed and safe. Currently, I am a union worker at the University of Missouri, working as a maintenance man for the Terra apartment complex. That is mostly housing grad students and a lot of international students. So it is a nice place to work, and I get to learn a lot about the world, other cultures, and just a lot about what they're researching. Yeah, I hope to get on the city council so I can make a difference and be a voice for the workers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Lisa Meyer, you have 2 minutes to do your introduction.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to share with you a little bit about myself and why I'm running. My father was first-generation American-Italian. Most of my childhood and adolescence was spent in Illinois, my first 12 years on a farm and then the St. Louis Metro East. I am the first person in my family to earn a college degree. I worked in healthcare, the arts, and financial advising. Today, I've been married for a little over 20 years to my husband, Jim. I have been working as a small business owner in real estate for well over a decade. We moved into Ward 2 in 2005, and I love and I passionately promote our ward. Why am I running? To serve my fellow Ward 2 citizens by staying focused on core issues. I'm asking Ward 2 members, what matters to you? I'm asking, I'm listening, and I'm taking notes. Most, not all, but most concerns fit into 3 general categories: safety, infrastructure, health, and well-being. In Ward 2, we have beautiful parks, beautiful, beautiful parks. Yet I've had several people tell me they don't feel safe on the trails and in the parks. I've also had people say they don't feel safe at Columbia Mall, especially after dark. A few shared petty theft concerns, including one senior citizen who told me about how she put garden lights out to only have them stolen overnight. If elected, I will support our professional police department and first responders with the resources they need to hire and retain top-notch candidates and support crime prevention. We don't want to just fill positions. We want to attract the best of the best. I will focus on core issues: safety, infrastructure, health, and well-being. My name is Lisa Meyer, and I hope to earn your vote on April 2nd.
All right, thank you. So a moment ago, I already jumped ahead to start with the questions, but I'm not going to ask you that question because you've had all that time to think about it. So I'll go back to Betsy Peters. You get to start on this one. So one of the big decisions recently was the selection of a police chief. Let's pick up on the police idea here. How do you feel that selection process went? Your satisfaction with it, your reaction to the process of selecting Joe Schluty as the police chief?
I think it went well. It was a national search, as we have a tendency to do, and then we always seem to end up with a local person after we check out what's out there, and then feel that the local person will do a good job. Jill has a lot of good ideas, and she's articulate, and she's been around for a number of years, in different capacities in the police department. She comes with just a wealth of knowledge, and I think the respect of the police officers that work under her. She's already made a lot of changes. I'd like to say with a little help from the city council and mainly the city manager, we've been able to raise beginning salaries, and we're working on compression issues, trying to do a better job of retaining our police officers. So I think Jill's got a little advantage there simply because she can offer better salaries. But she's done a really good job already of recruiting, it sounds like. So I'm going to hope she continues that because, we're 40 short or 50 short. She also has good ideas about when she can use non-sworn officers. So I think that she's got a lot of ideas, and she's worked in the community long enough to sort of know what she needs sworn officers for and what we can use someone else for. So I'm looking forward to see what she can do.
So that's a perspective of someone who was on the council when the selection was made. Mr. Schreiber, your answer from outside as you watch that process unfold, your thoughts about the selection of the new police chief.
Well, with talking with the police officers union and having meetings with the police officers, yeah, I agree. They say they are shorthanded, that we need to hire more police officers. I don't know much about the selection process that went through to select the new chief, but I do support the police officers and think that we need to have a well-trained and long-lasting police force for Columbia because, well, that gives institutional knowledge, and that's what we want, is to have that institutional knowledge of police officers that have been seen around the community, that can work with the community, and yeah, I think build those relations.
Ms. Meyer, your answer to what you saw, and I understand you weren't in the nuts and bolts of it, but your thoughts about how the police chief was selected.
One part of it that I really appreciated was the interview where all citizens were invited to participate and all of the candidates were asked the same questions. I attended that meeting, and then following that meeting, we were asked to rate who we put as number 1, number 2, and number 3. And I'm glad that the person that I put as number 1 was chosen. I think that we're in for some excellent leadership, and hopefully we can all do what we can to support effective change and listen to her ideas. Be on their team. They need us to be on their team.
We'll start with Robert Schreiber on this one. It's a related question, one that was provided by the Board of Realtors. We talk about supporting the police chief. How should the city council support the police chief? What tangible ways are there to support the police chief?
Well, the biggest thing that I am hearing from what the city council can do is start to help out with their funding their pensions. That is one of their major issues. Their pensions is what a lot of them sign up for. I think in the upper 80 percentiles. And right now there is question with funding the pension. And it seems like the can has kind of been kicked down the road a bit to where we need more input from the city council and working with the city manager to help get the police and all the safety officers across Columbia, like the fire department and the emergency response, get them funded so that they can show up and do their job.
Lisa Meyer, how should the city council support the new police chief?
We need to listen. We need to listen, and we need to listen. And then we need to give them what they need to do their jobs. Do they need more training materials? We need to provide them. Do they need to, I agree with the pension piece. That is one that we need to address and follow through with our promises. But we need to listen, and we need to trust that when they're asking for things, that we need to give it to them so that they have the materials that they need to be able to train people and retain officers.
Betsy Peters, how's the city council supporting the new police chief, or how should it?
Well, hopefully we're supporting them by funding. So we've already done that, and to continue to do that. We need to support the police chief. She's redoing, she's changing, and I think she just did this actually at the last meeting that we agreed on. She's sort of reorganizing the police department. We need to be supportive of that. She has a professional standards division, I believe now. So, she's looking at what she needs to do. We need to be supportive of that, certainly not critical of it. and we need to support our police officers. The pension fund has been an ongoing problem. We do continue to work on funding it. It is funded at about 60%, and it should be funded about 80%. So we keep looking at how to do that better. We also are looking at if there's a better pension plan than expecting the city to do it, because it's getting better, but not great.
All right. Anybody want to add anything? I'll oftentimes ask if you want to follow up with anything. If do, catch my attention. We're talking about police. That's related to crime. So Lisa Meyer, you're first on this one. What are your thoughts about crime in Columbia, and how would you improve public safety?
I think the community policing model is an interesting one, and I know it's one that the chief and the police department has embraced, and the co-responder program as well. I think that those are two creative ways to approach it. The other is that we need more police officers. We need more police officers to be out there to be able to do their jobs.
Betsy Peters, same question to you. Your thoughts about the crime in Columbia, and how do we improve public safety?
Well, I think actually crime is down, like murders and things like that. I'm not sure the petty crime is down. I'm not sure that the going through I don't really want to call it petty crime, because if you've gone through my car, I'm pretty annoyed. If you've stolen things out of my front yard or whatever. So that's a problem. But I think we need to support our neighborhood associations for one thing. The neighborhood watch folks are doing a good job. The community policing. I know that at one point, we had those 4 areas of town where we were focusing more on getting people to know each other in their neighborhoods and what help did they need, because those were the neighborhoods that we were seeing more crime in, which is annoying for the police officers, if nothing else, because they're having to spend more time there than they need to. So if we could get back to that, community policing is a wonderful idea, but we need 40 or 50 more officers probably to do that. So I'm not sure how, reasonable that is, but if we could do that in those select areas, that would be quite helpful. And the co-responder model would be great, because our police officers have a whole different schedule and a way of doing things than the people that need to follow up on those that are mentally ill or have, other issues.
You want to define co-responder? I think you just started to right there, but that is to have someone who is an expert in dealing with those who might be struggling with a mental issue.
Right, exactly. And follow up with that, because that's what I think our police officers have an issue with, because they're doing set schedules of time. They can't follow up 12 hours later when they're off shift with someone, so we need our co-responders to say, did this person get help? How's this person doing? What, are they going to be out on the street? We don't need them on the street. What do we need to do? So that's, I think, what the co-responders are good at, is that they are able to deal with people with more mental illnesses and substance abuse.
A few budgets ago, wasn't there money passed to hire those, but there haven't been those who have stepped up to be qualified for the job?
That would be correct. So then the question once again becomes, are we not spending enough money, or, have we not, can they make, have a better salary somewhere else? But that's where Burrell comes in. And they have a co-responder model that I believe we're starting to use with the city and police officers.
Robert Schreiber, the question, I'll go back to the original one. Your thoughts about crime in Columbia, and how would you improve public safety?
Well, I agree with the co-responder model, but I also know from talking to the police that, they created a program that has some funding, but really have not employed anybody so far. So I think we need to reach out and work with all the universities that we have in this town that are producing mental health professionals, and try to see if we can get them in to fill some of these positions. Like Betsy was saying, violent crime, I believe, is down something like 20%, which is good. But then we have the issue of petty crimes or trespassing. And what I hear a lot from the police is they don't like dealing with these trespassing crimes, and most of it is, from what I hear, is the homeless population. They're out there on the streets, and they get lots of calls about homeless people being in backyards and possibly stealing things. But we need to figure out how to address the homeless population, and that will also address some of this this crime problem. But I believe, yeah, there are solutions to this, and I think we just need to work with the police and mental health professionals and some of the institutions that we're building right now. The VFW room at the end is doing some good work with having beds to keep these people safe at night.
We're going to talk about the unhoused in a upcoming question. But before we do that, Betsy Peters, first on this, what do you think the role, I'm sorry?
No, never mind. You're right. I thought you missed Lisa, but you hadn't. She started.
I hope that.
Never mind.
did
I'm not in
start,
charge of this. I'll try and remember that.
I for sure don't want to trade places with you.
Are we committed to the 30 minutes after, the 30 seconds?
If you want to follow up.
Yes. I was just thinking, I had a very interesting conversation with a counselor, a cognitive therapist who works with a particular population of transitioning people from who are released from jail into better living. And the individual had a very interesting perspective about the co-responders program, about a peer-to-peer program.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really quite fascinating. And so that's something else that I think that we need to look into.
Anybody else?
We have that, I think. And I, of course, can't remember the name of it. I want to say Into Action, but that's, I'm sure, right, totally wrong. But there is it is like a peer-to-peer. And they're doing a really good job of like keeping people from going back to prison and moving them forward. And I can't remember any.
Right, but
their
using
names right
that
now.
team to help with the police officers when
Oh.
they're going on calls.
Oh, okay.
To
Oh, yeah.
connect that with a
connect that,
correspondent.
okay.
Yes, that's a different phase of that.
Okay.
Yes,
You're-
not to
you're
be
right.
correct.
No, it's all right.
Thank you.
Betsy Peters, what role, if any, should video surveillance have in dealing with crime?
Oh, I like video surveillance myself. Are you talking like that Fusus and that kind
Yeah,
of stuff? Any of
that's
that?
not mentioned in the question, but
Yeah.
I would say that's
Yeah.
probably what the question
Yeah,
deals
I mean,
with.
I think I don't know why people would be upset about it. Certainly downtown, I never quite understood why that was a problem. You're already downtown. So I think it would be helpful. I have no problem with it, but some of our citizens do.
Robert Schreiber, same question to you. What role should video surveillance do to help fight crime? And if you want to do Fusus, you can deal with it that way.
I'm not a fan of being video surveilled. I think if private businesses want to put up their own cameras, that's just fine. But there was a lot of issues brought up with Fusus and the access that a centrally controlled system like that and the effects that it would have on citizens. So I'm not really for a video surveillance system that we put throughout downtown. That the city does funds.
Lisa Meyer, your thought on that question about video surveillance?
I clearly need to do a little bit more homework on this, but my gut reaction is that if I know I'm on video, if there's a sign that says that video surveillance is taking place, I think I'm comfortable with that. As long as there's something that's letting me know that it's taking place. There's not an airport I go into and I don't anticipate that I'm being videoed. I've anywhere I've traveled, I've always figured if I'm on a light rail or that I'm being videoed. So I think that I would want to make sure that there is a posting that you know that you are being videoed.
Anybody else want to follow up? We're going to move to a new topic. And Robert Schreiber, you're first on this. Let's talk about affordable housing. We hear about that many times. So the city council's role, what can you do to add affordable housing here in Columbia?
Well, I think we need to build more housing, and that will add to the market, which then will create some more affordable housing. As I understand it, it's a filter down system with housing. So in the past, there was enough housing so that incoming first-time home buyers could buy up older housing. now we see that with the lack of building that we've had in the past 5 to 10 years, that there is not that new housing on the market for first-time home buyers and upper income people to buy into. Your first-time home buyer isn't usually buying a brand new house that now costs in upwards of $300,000. They're looking more for your $120,000, $200,000 range. And with the median income of Columbia being $57,000, the most they could afford, a medium income person, would be $240,000, I believe. So I think we need to build more houses. I think we need to build sustainable houses. That was one thing that I did as a builder. And I think we need to help, the city needs to partner with local banks to help people raise their credit score, because that is one of the main things keeping first-time home buyers out of the market.
Lisa Meyer, same question to you on the question of affordable housing. What would the council be able to do there?
Well, over the years, I've attended multiple affordable housing symposiums that have been held by our city. And right now there's another study that's going on, and we're anticipating the results will be at the end of this year. I believe it's the fall of this year. What I'm wondering is if we're going to be courageous enough to actually make changes that might actually make housing more affordable. And when we talk about that, we want to talk about 2/3 of home ownership and then the other third for renting and accessibility for renting. And if we're going to be courageous, we might all have to get uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is we might have to look at zoning differently with a different lens. We might have to look at building materials differently with a different lens. There are already a lot of programs that the banks have and various not-for-profits to help people improve their credit score. My family, my parents never bought a home. I was a first-time home buyer, and I've helped so many other people, first generation from Peru, from Honduras, from Nigeria. The joy of that is incredible. And I'd like to have more opportunities. And right now we have such low inventory and we have nowhere to go. And there are so many people that want to own a home or would like to rent in a different area. And how wonderful it would be if we had those possibilities here in Columbia.
Betsy Peters, the question to you about affordable housing,
Can I just pass that question?
if you'd like.
No.
Say magic like one of the school board candidates
I
did.
like
a while
that. I
ago.
like that. I came in for one of those. I think people talk about the middle housing and how we seem to be missing a lot of middle housing. We've also had conversations about zoning changes, whether we need to have mixed zoning versus nothing but duplexes in one area of town and nothing but single family homes in another, that perhaps, mixed use would be better. There are a lot of programs out there that are working on affordable housing. And I think the city council can be supportive of them working on affordable housing. The city gets into it a little bit, but we're really not home builders. So then the question is, what barriers are we putting in the way of affordable housing? Are there things we can do to decrease those barriers? Are there things we can do to be supportive of builders building affordable housing, or rehabbing things, or changing the way things are used? So we're just going to keep working on that. It's an ongoing problem, but we'll just keep working on it between ARPA funds and CDBG funds and funds, all the different funds that are out there. I think, let other people do the building.
Lisa Meyer, this is going to be your question. It's related to this question, but it's broader, and it comes because the Board of Realtors knows this. And so thinking a bigger term, we're dealing with home shortages in all price ranges, not just affordable housing. How would you help create additional housing on all levels here in Columbia? What is the role of the city council in doing this?
Well, first I'd like to clarify, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Columbia Board of Realtors. That would not be my
She
proper
is
role.
not.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear. But I am speaking as a seasoned realtor and someone. I just wanted to clarify that because that would not be my position. There are so many different economic factors and such that take place, but I think getting out of the way is one of the best things that the city council and our city could do to help. Get out of the way.
Betsy Peters?
That works for me. I mean, we are not in the, we're not in the build, the area of building. So the questions are we better off, changing the zoning, let people, like I say, have more mixed zoning so that you can have different price ranges in the same area. We are looking at whether we need to be changing any of the fees that we have for building in the city. I'm not sure we'll change them, but I know we hear about it a lot, and maybe we just need to not add anymore. So, trying to be supportive, but not being the builders of choice in the community.
Robert Schreiber, your thought about that?
I think the city can help, like with the planning and zoning issues. The fees, I've heard a lot about that. I agree with not making them less, because as we heard in the previous forum, those some of those fees go to the teachers. So that is a vital part of our.
Do the fees go for that, or the property taxes?
The property taxes do
for sure, but the fees do some.
I thought that some of the
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I would like to see the city have partnerships with the builders.
Here's a question for you, and we'll start with Betsy Peters. How do you see the role of a city council member, and what would be your 3 top priorities?
Let me think on that. I think infrastructure is one of the big things. I mean, being supportive of that. Public safety, whether it's the fire department or the police department, our first responders, making the community a safe place for people to, as I think the city has, the live, work, learn, and play motto, so I think the city council needs to be helpful for that. Try not to get too far afield of those sort of core issues.
Robert Schreiber, same question to you. Your vision of what you see the role is if you were a city council member, and what would be your top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priorities would be the affordable housing issue. Also infrastructure. We all want good roads, bridges, sewers, water, internet. All right, that is a given, but it is not guaranteed. And seeing those things moving forward, I want to expand them and make sure that we are also repairing our existing ones at the time, because most cities across the country, not just Columbia, the infrastructure needs a lot of work, and there's a lot that goes into that. My 3rd issue would be public transportation. I want to expand public transportation and bring it at least back to where it used to be. But it's a vital resource that helps people in the community get to their jobs. I mean, it is especially low income people in the community that do not have vehicles. That's how they get to and from work. And it helps reduce traffic congestion and pollution, air pollution.
Lisa Meyer, how do you see your role as a city council member if elected, and what would be your top 3 priorities?
So my top 3 priorities are safety, infrastructure, health, and well-being. But I have another priority. I'm just curious, could you guess what percentage of people participate in April elections? It's low. It's less than 14%. So I have a goal to get more participation with voting and participation with local government. It's concerning to me how many different citizens, when I'm asking the question, what matters to them, that they're sharing their concerns, but they feel a disconnect between what's going on at City Hall and in their homes. And it's my hope to warm that up a bit. I want to start to meet with people, have regular meetings where I'm getting together with people, and I'm still, if I'm elected, I will still be listening, taking notes, and getting people involved.
I'm curious, and I think I can ask this question and get a response from the 2 candidates who have not served on the council, but from the incumbent. When you are contacted by people and they're going to be in your ward, I would guess, but anybody in the city could contact you. What are the top 2 or 3 categories that they are most concerned about and want your attention on?
When you had originally asked that question, that I thought, all of these questions are all about policy and what we should do, as the city council. But when you really think about it, it takes at least 4 votes, on city council. The calls I've gotten so far this week, none of them have been from my ward. One was about trash not being collected and how she's going to sue the city for that, or she wants money back. But we talked through it and we got the trash picked up on her whole street, and I'm actually going to check tomorrow and make sure it's gotten picked up. But people will just call and they'll just ask for something, or they want you to call them, and then you call them and you discover they're not even in your ward. But they've got concerns, so you can take care of it. And what our advantage is that we can then email the city manager or the public works department, or both, because the city manager always wants to know what's going on, and say, could you check what's going on the street? This is the address. You can get the address from whoever you speak to, and you can work that out. Or like I said, tonight was the roll carts. There's 4 roll carts that are sitting in a parking spot across from my house, and there should only be 3, and this is going to be a disaster. And I'm like, okay, so we'll work on that. So it's really it's the day-to-day things that people really need help with, or the potholes that need to be filled, or stuff like that. So it's interesting. Or the porta potty, I heard that the other day. The porta potty left. What happened to that porta potty? And I'm thinking, this is what I do on city council. Email the city manager. What happened to that porta potty over there that people used to use? So, it's always interesting.
So I appreciate that answer. And that leads me to ask the 2 candidates, and we'll start with Robert Schreiber. How would you deal with that? What is your personality makeup that you've just heard a sitting council member who's been there almost a decade deal with these kinds of issues? How would you anticipate doing that?
My general personality is to, if I see a problem, I try to fix it. I mean, that has been my job for 20 years and currently is now. I fix things. So if someone called me up that wasn't even in my ward, I would probably do the same thing. I would try to solve the problem as best I could, because they are a citizen in the city at large. So yeah, I like to fix things.
Lisa Meyer, same question to you. You have a tolerance for those kinds of interruptions and those kinds of questions that you're maybe thinking, I wasn't expecting this one.
Oh, absolutely. Real estate has absolutely made me prepared for just about anything that can happen at any time. And those of us who work in the industry know, as soon as we think something's happened, there's an issue on an inspection or something, and we're prepared to respond. Regarding the service, yes. And I think having excellent relationships with different departments at city staff is certainly very helpful. I actually have a client situation that happened. He had it was an abandoned vehicle on his street, and he was just really, really tired of seeing it. And he contacted me and said, okay, I've seen this. This is just here. There aren't the tags. How come nobody's doing anything about it? And I said, well, we need to be proactive. Okay. There's a 311 number. And then I'm also going to introduce you to, and it was the office of the ONS department. And I connected him by email, and lo and behold, everything got fixed within a week. And that was pretty cool. So it's all about connecting people and then following through.
That person in Ward 6?
No,
I'm kidding. It's
but I think the only thing I would do differently there would be polite to my fellow council members, would be to make sure that they're CC'd and in the loop. Because I think some people are just reaching out for help, and I wouldn't want to, overstep a relationship without making sure that they knew that I was helping out.
Robert Schreiber, this one goes to you. How should the city be handling the unhoused in our community?
That is a big one. Well, we already have programs, like I mentioned, Room at the Inn, that I believe they have 90 beds, 100 beds. And then there is a volunteer action center that is going up down the street from that in the coming years. That is going to have probably 120 beds. So that is a start. And just to let everybody know, I lived on Stone Street for 13 years, which is right there by the power plant, right there by Room at the Inn, and right down the street from where the Voluntary Action Center would be. I watched over the years that corridor along I-70. I watched that become more and more people started showing up there, and it was a small camp. Now it's a large camp. And I used to watch people walk around and deal with their mental health issues and their addiction issues, and have my neighbors say, hey, I think things are being stolen out of my backyard. And I think we need to deal with this with compassion, because these are people that have fallen through the cracks, and we need to lift them up, get them the help they need. But the most important thing we can do is keep people from falling through the cracks. And that looks like, helping people that are just on the edge make that month's rent, because the lower income people in this community everyone's just a bad medical bill or a bad car bill away sometimes from being out on the street. Thank you.
Lisa Meyer, question to you. How should the city be handling the unhoused in our community?
Well, we have a lot in progress right now, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm very hopeful that the people who need help will want help. I've talked to a lot of cognitive therapists, people who deal with substance and addiction and mental health on a regular basis, and I've learned a lot. And I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that we're heading in the right direction to help people. But the toughest thing is people have to want the help. And anybody in here who's ever dealt with somebody with addiction, you know how difficult that is. And we need to be compassionate and not enabling.
Betsy Peters, what's your read on how the city is handling the unhoused in our community?
Well, hopefully we're getting a little better at it. If nothing else, we have more resources available. This year, we've heard very few times that people shown up to yell at the city and the city council for not doing anything about the homeless. So I'm thinking that means we're actually starting to see this turn the corner. We do need to see if we can keep people from falling through the cracks or becoming unhoused. So you're exactly right. If it's some way that we can help keep them where they're already housed, that's a lovely start. If we can't, then we need to have that whole group of people, not just like, we don't just need homeless. I mean, I've talked to the Voluntary Action Center. I'm like, well, those cots are great, but once you fill them up, what are you going to do with these people? Right. They need to be moved on to transitional housing or affordable housing, or they need to move back where they came from. If it's something where they just need a ride back to Avaz. I mean, there was one guy at room at the end. He just somehow or another ended up in Columbia. He didn't have a ride back to Avaz. Well, he's got a home in Avaz. Let's get him back to Avaz. We can do this, So, we need that whole spectrum of services. And then you're right. They need to want to be helped. But I feel like we're at least starting to move down that path.
This is related, and Lisa Meyer, you will start on this. Should the city continue to clean out camps on public property? And then what are your thoughts about doing so on private property?
It's my understanding there's a firm process with private property. Am I incorrect about that? There's like quite a period of time. That's an ONS question.
That is an ONS question.
Yes. So I believe, and I would like to have my facts to be 100%. So please know I'm not 100% on this, but I do believe that there is a process that takes place if it is private property, where they have to give notice, and then there's a period of time for notice. And then I believe that both the private property, I think that the person is required to pay a percentage, if not a good portion of it. Regarding public land, yes, it's our responsibility to make sure of it. Okay, all of it. Thank you for that clarification. Yes. So, and then I believe with the public land, yes, we should be keeping it free. Mm-hmm.
Betsy Peters, same question.
That's another one of those difficult things. The private property, if they're a nuisance or they're a health problem, the private people are supposed to be cleaning that up. And what you run into lots of times is there's like a public access and then private land. And so
Right.
you end up with this sort of weird thing where the city goes in and cleans up under the electric lines, but then they don't do the rest of it because that's private. So I try and just listen to that. We do give a lot of notice. It's sort of surprising because people are like, oh, they just cleaned out a camp. But, the city has spent probably 6 weeks to 2 months saying, you guys, we're going to clean this camp out. And where can we, how can we help you find some other place to stay? It's really a health problem because they don't have any sanitary, they have no bathrooms, they've got no showers. They're either dumping stuff into the creek or they're just living amongst, piles of trash. And so it's a real health problem. So I do think we need to clean it out. But again, it would be helpful if we could find other places to send them and if we could help them move on to a little more secure housing.
Robert Schreiber.
I agree that we need to keep our public lands public, and that the private people that allow homeless camps to be on their land, it is a health problem.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, we have to look at this in a sustainable, holistic fashion. Where, why are these people here? And if we clear them out of a spot, where are they going to go? What they're just gonna, are they going to move out of the city? Are they going to move to 2 miles down the road? And another thing is we need to address how many people are homeless in the city. That is one thing. I have heard numbers of 280. That coupled with what the school board has said with children that are homeless. So if we know a child is homeless and going to school, then there's probably a parent along there too. So that's 2 people. So I think the numbers are in upwards of 500-600. I think it's vastly low. So first we have to measure how many people we're dealing with, because you can't fix what you can't measure.
I'm going to ask a follow-up. You don't have to give a long answer to this, but and Betsy Peters, we'll start with you. So what thoughts do you have about those who don't have homes and are not interested in going to room at the inn or anywhere else? It is not unique to our community. Every community of size deals with the same. And I struggle with this. What thoughts have you given to this?
Well, we've had conversations both. Actually, I was talking to Janet Thompson last week about this. We've discussed having like sanctioned camps or some type of camps. I mean, a lot of people, they don't want the rules and they don't want to follow any rules, but they really do need like just shelter. And so there are sanctioned camps around the country that are run not by the city, but by usually the city ends up funding them, but somebody else has to run them, that allow people some shelter and some place to keep their belongings. It doesn't usually involve a kitchen. There's usually like public toilets, so to speak, toilets for maybe 10 or 15 of the homes. They're usually for single people. There are some rules involved. Some of them can take animals. So we've sort of discussed what we can do. We're sort of questionable how much you want to do because, people will say you're attracting homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that's really true, but we sure don't want to attract anybody else, but we would like to take care of the homeless that we have here. And some people just are not going to follow the rules. But it would be nice if they weren't panhandling all over the place or, threatening the businesses that do call and say, there's homeless guys outside and my customers don't want to come in. So it's a problem.
Robert Schreiber, I'm not asking for you to solve the world's problem on this right now, but what thoughts have you given to this issue of those who are without homes, but they seem to be content with that?
Well, we are not going to let people die in the street or freeze to death in the woods. I mean, I would hope that is something. I'd like to look at what other cities around the country are doing about this problem. Salt Lake City in particular, Atlanta, they are having some great success. And I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I think we need to tailor what other people have found to work for our city.
Lisa Meyer, same question to you. What thought have you given to this?
It's so sad because you want people to want the help. And we're here with open arms saying, you know, who hasn't been approached? I remember one person coming up and panhandling, and I asked her what she was going to do with the money, and she said that she was going to get a room, like a hotel. And I said, how about if I pay for the room? And she said, no. Okay. And backed up. We've all been approached in different ways. It's a tough one. I know that there's some interesting things happening in Oakland, California. I know that there's some interesting things happening in Austin, Texas. Those are two very different environments than what we have here with our Four Seasons. So the truth is, I don't know. I would have to ask, I would consult with different cognitive therapists who are working with folks in behavioral therapy. And what do you do? I don't know.
I will say Springfield has sanctioned camps. Des Moines, Iowa does. Tulsa. So we have been, you're right, exactly the Four Season thing. So people have been looking at that. Probably the housing department that we've just developed at the city, Office of Neighborhood Services. But you're right. We need to look at the Four Seasons, but we are looking at that. Not as large of towns as Atlanta and that, but you're right. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel.
We'll move to another topic. And Robert Schreiber, you're first on this. We're talking about board and commissions that the city has. You've put yourself on the ballot to be elected possibly as a council member, so you are showing your interest there. But how can the city attract more qualified people to those boards and commissions?
Well, we have a wealth of knowledge in our universities and colleges in this city. I think we can start looking there for one. There are people that study all the things that the boards and commissions do at these universities and colleges. And we have a huge population of students and possibly future residents that stay in this town that would probably like to be on those boards and commissions.
Lisa Meyer, same question to you. How do you get people to want to be involved as serving on a board or commission?
Well, we have a fast growing population of 65 and over. Really seasoned, wise people that would be fantastic on a variety of different boards that we could all learn from. And I think something that we need to look at is a different time of day to meet. I think some of them need to look at the time that they're meeting and where they're meeting and see what they can do to attract more of our 65 plus and get them involved. We've got a lot of retired professors, professionals. It'd be fantastic to get some of their wisdom on the boards, commissions.
Betsy Peters, I'm curious, first of all, do you think that this is an issue? And if it is, what is your solution?
Ask people to serve. That's what I've found to be helpful. If is to just really call people up and say, hey, there's an opening on this commission, and we're trying to find somebody to fill it. And the most recent one I think of is the Citizens Police Review Board. We really needed to get people on there that are not pro-police or anti-police, but that, will be able to thoughtfully look at things. And so you just really need to know folks in your ward and just sort of network with folks and ask people to serve. A lot of people will do it if you ask. But they either haven't bothered to check out the boards and commissions. They haven't thought of it. Lots of people just haven't really thought about it. Mm-hmm. So some of it's just talking to people and seeing if they'd be willing to serve, and then making the boards and commissions useful. Sometimes you show up and you think, well, I just spent an hour. What was I doing here? So, it needs to be.
Have you heard that frustration from boards and commission members that maybe they've met and then what they've sent as their opinion or ideas to the council didn't make any difference?
Or you can't get enough folks at a commission meeting to actually have an official meeting, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Lisa Meyer, Ward 2, I'd like for you to do a little bit of a definition of that ward as you see it, and then how would you promote economic growth in that ward?
Yes. So we have I'll just summarize it. We've got the north side of Ward 2 and we've got the south side of Ward 2. And one of the things that we could use some economic development on the north side is a lot of people would like to see a grocery store and a pharmacy. We're not technically a food desert, but you really do have to go quite a ways to get to a grocery store. So that would be on the north side, okay? And then on the south side, they have a fair amount of grocery stores and such. But I'd like to the point about transportation, I have found it very interesting how many people of a particular age group really don't want to drive anymore, and connecting them to the resources to help them get around. Did that answer your question? I think I'm finished.
Seems to me that you've answered the question.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
When you talk north side, what are the boundaries, east and west?
Well, to like you go up to close about Oakland, all right, and then you take it all the way to past Stadium. Then you've got Garden. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the subdivision right now. Then you go across. Then you've got Columbia Mall, and then you've got Park DeVille and part of Paxton Keeley and the condo development back there. Yes.
Betsy Peters, how do you kind of describe your Ward 6, and what about economic growth there that you can help to encourage or maybe bring about?
Well, my ward starts at the southeast corner of Broadway and College. So it takes about half of Stevens College in, all of the East Campus. It goes down south on College, sort of jots over to just almost to Stadium, but it goes sort of south of Stadium and on Providence. So and then the southeast part, pretty much. Although it does include Old Hawthorne, which is north of Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just sort of that southeast part of the city. We have Lamone Boulevard as far as economic development. We've got some hotels down there on AC and 63. Other than that, it's really pretty much residential. I haven't heard any complaints about a food desert, but there probably is, except most folks in my ward, I believe, have cars, simply because of where they live. It includes Discovery Parkway and that whole area down there, and Gans Creek and the cross-country course on the sports field house. So it's really more of the residential area. So I have the poor students, and then I've got the folks that live in Discovery and Old Hawthorne.
Robert Schreiber, how you define Ward 2, and then what would you encourage as far as economic growth there?
I see Ward 2 as being a lot of working class families and people, as well as some lower income areas. There's quite a few trailer parks just around my house. And I talked to those people, and they, going back to the public transportation, a lot of them don't have transportation or don't want to drive, and they would like public transportation to the different grocery stores, pharmacies, and to access all the things that they need. I think getting with developers to build some more business complexes that can be occupied by the businesses, because right now I'm seeing that there's a lot of them are full. I mean, we have a row of restaurants up on Rangeline, and that's kind of a hotbed of restaurants. And then you go over to Parkade area, and that's mostly residential. And like Lisa was saying, it swoops down here and hits the mall area, so that's a pretty already economically vibrant area. But I think we could expand a little bit farther north up on Rangeline to get some businesses up in there, because now it's becoming a highly trafficked area.
Anybody want to follow up anything? Betsy Peters, you're first on this one, and that's good because you can speak as to what has been the most recent development in short-term rental decisions that have gone on almost as long as roll cart decisions. So your thought about the status of that right now, and set the foundation for us, and then we'll move into the candidates that have a contested race.
Well, we've talked about short-term rentals, as you say, for a long time. Planning and zoning has brought one iteration to the council to regulate short-term rentals maybe 2 years ago. And it was very complicated and almost impossible to understand. So we asked them to go back and take another look at it. So they have done that, and they have taken a long look at it, and they've had, a lot of public comment, and have really once again delved into it. It is back on the city council agenda. It was a first read, I believe, at the last meeting. So I think it's coming up on Monday night for discussion and potentially a vote, or amendments and a vote, or amendments and tabling. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's about as good as it's going to get. I don't think the city council will send it back again to planning and zoning. I'm not sure they would accept it again. I think they'd tell us to make a decision and move on. It'll show up. I'm sure we'll have a public hearing. It'll be robust and interesting. I'm not sure if we'll be making any changes or not. I do think we need to do some regulation. Right now, they're all illegal, including the one I have. So it'd be nice if they all became legal, so that we actually could know what we needed to do to comply with the city standards. So we'll see what happens.
I do think it's kind of an in-depth, it's complicated, but Robert Schreiber, you're next on this. Just your general thoughts about short-term rentals, their regulation or not regulation. Where do you come down on that broader topic?
It is a hot button issue. Short-term rentals, from my understanding, there is about 400 of them that are in the city. And what I see with short-term rentals is I think they do need to be regulated, because every short-term rental that is out there, that is taking a possible family home off the market, okay, or a possible single family home off the market, so that someone can rent it out for a MU game or other sporting event or whatever is going on in the great city of Columbia. But I think it does need to be regulated, and we can have some short-term rentals, but it becomes a problem when you have someone that owns a lot of different properties and then just does all of them short-term rentals, because they know they can make more money at it. They can make what they would get in a month in a weekend. Okay. So I think there does need to be regulations on that. And I think it affects the housing market at large.
Lisa Meyer, your thought on short-term rentals?
Well, I don't have any short-term rentals. I do know that to have them, it creates more maintenance and cost because of turning over the property. So the thought that they're just automatic, big money makers, it could be argued that it's actually better to have your property leased for a year, where you're not having to pay for people to go in and clean and deal with turning over the property and such so quickly. I think that I lean towards a conservative perspective, meaning I'm okay with modest regulation when it comes to honoring our ordinances that we already have. We've got noise ordinances. You don't want people having big parties next door. That's not how the property was supposed to be used. I also think that we had made some suggestions where if it's 30 days or less, isn't there like some rule in there where you're not going to be regulated, right?
There's lots of rules, and I can't address any of them.
Right. I feel like
120 days, 150 days, maybe less than 30 days.
Right.
I don't.
And then there's supposed to be
I'd
a
have
rule
to read
too
it.
if it's in your home. So, because I do have a woman who was able to pay for her child's education because she rented out her basement, and it worked out beautifully for her. So I think that we need to think big picture, that this is also a mom and pop opportunity to have some additional income. It's also an opportunity, if you're going to have short-term rentals, for possibly helping some people in transition with their housing needs. And I think it's important when we talk about a housing shortage, if you've got somebody with a big heart and they're connected with an organization, they might be able to help somebody. And I do know some folks who have helped with transitions.
Robert Schreiber, the question to you, what have you done and what are you doing to prepare yourself to serve as a city council member?
I am meeting with lots of different groups. I am studying every night to try to get up on the issues that the city council is working with. I watched video of this very forum before I came here to try to get an idea about what questions you might be asking. But yeah, I am talking to people all over the city, different unions, and studying every night to try to come up with ways that I see I can help the city.
Lisa Meyer, same question to you. What are you doing or what have you done to prepare yourself for a council seat?
Well, I read through the 600 and something page budget and made some notes. The next thing I want to do is really get a full and better understanding of the cash flow reports. And I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but I think that will be helpful to help me have an overall big picture of what's happening financially. And in addition to that, I'm having a lot of coffees, meeting with people in the ward, not just going door to door, but sitting at their kitchen table or meeting them for coffee. And I'm asking them what are their concerns, and I am taking notes, lots of notes, and that's it.
Betsy Peters, I'm going to change the question just a bit. What do you keep doing to be prepared to be a city council member? And as you look back to where you might have been several years ago, where these two are, what do you wish that you knew then that you know now?
I know now. For me, I'm trying to crack the neighborhood association meetings. This year, I got through some of them last year, and I'm trying to get to more this year because it's an opportunity to meet the entire neighborhood. I mean, I might just say hello, and if you have questions, I'm at the back of the room when the meeting's over because I don't really want to drag out neighborhood association meetings or homeowners association meetings, but just trying to get out and talking to more people to see. I mean, what I get are emails that people have complaints or concerns or issues or whatever, or phone calls, whatever. And so, you take care of those. I think the pre-council meetings are quite interesting. And so if you guys have a chance to come to those, when you talk about budgets, I know we should hear something soon, I hope, about the upcoming capital improvement tax that we're going to be asking people, I think, to continue.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 10-year tax and capital improvements that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, could we get a list of what we asked people to, what we told people we were going to do 10 years ago? Which ones have we done? How much money have we spent? What are, we have some ongoing projects that will continue through this capital improvement round, which is another year and a half. But then what are we going to be doing in the future? The pre-council meetings are where it's a workshop pretty much, and we just get reports from the staff, but it's quite helpful and it keeps you from having to read the entire budget, which God bless you for doing that. Let me tell you.
It took a couple days.
Any questions from the audience? I want to make sure that I give people an opportunity. If they have a question, you can speak loudly from your seat. If you want to stand up, and be patient because I'll need to repeat it in all likelihood for those who are watching us remotely. Yes, ma'am.
I've been to a few city council meetings, and when the public gets up and speaks, I don't get the impression that the council cares one iota. You got them on their phones, they're looking the other way, getting up and going to the bathroom. And I'm thinking, do they discuss this afterwards? Do they ever discuss the public opinion?
So the question is for the council member now, Betsy Peters, and the question is that the questioner has been to city council meetings, and when the public gets up for public comments, she says council members don't pay attention.
Well, I guess maybe.
Oh, if you
they
do pay attention.
I would say we just had actually a discussion about this yesterday. Like if I have to go to the bathroom, I never do it during public comment because I want to hear what citizens have to say. So I might do it while the staff is giving a report because I've already read that report. I mean, they have a 2-page memo they give us. So if I have to go that's when I go. Never during public comment because I want to hear what people have to say. Okay. And I try not to be on the phone. I mean, I want to know what people, I mean, they only have 3 minutes or maybe 5, depending on who it is. So what is it that they're concerned about or what are they saying? So I don't know. I'd have to ask the rest of the council. As far as discussing stuff afterwards, yeah, for sure. Although remember, we have to do it in small groups because we can't have more than 4 people in one place or it's considered a public meeting and we have to, sunshine law. But we do, we will discuss something later. I didn't realize that, or, we had a woman who was quite upset about Whitegate stuff one night and when Mayor Treese was still there. So I think she talked for 10 minutes one night and he did not stop her. It was the end of the meeting. It was midnight. God bless that woman. She sat there for 5 hours to tell us that we needed to improve lighting and this, that, and the other. But then we did discuss it later. Actually, we asked the city manager to address it and he said he would the next day and he did.
Guess we could ask the candidates if they would make a pledge here tonight that they would pretend to pay attention during those.
Yeah.
We're good with that.
Both would say yes. Okay.
So,
No, you don't need to, just as long as I can hear so I can repeat it.
yeah, so I know that the police, there's been 40 that have left. And a lot of times when they are, we just had a detective who went and spoke in front of city council and said that how the disparaging comments really drive down their spirit and they feel attacked emotionally all the time because there's a group that always comes and they always say the worst about the police. And so, and there's not a way to have a neutral party explain any sort of balanced perspective as far as, well, here's the rest of the story that this person did not say. And so as city council people, how can we keep the police trained to the best of their ability to do the job the way that it should be done, but then also support the police and also hear when there are valid critiquing, that needs to be done so that there's a holistic balance approach because we want the best police, but we don't want, all of our people to leave so that the whole city's in danger. So what can we do?
Let's start with Lisa Meyer. So the question is supporting the police while at the same time holding them accountable. Is that kind of a real simple summary of this?
Well, the way to support them is to give them the resources and the funds that they need to be able to hire and retain. I think we talked, some of this is going to recap on some of the things, so I don't want to go and repeat things. But a part that I heard of your question and is the negativity that is often presented at council meetings. And I think the best thing that could happen would be to have more people stepping up with positivity and getting more engaged.
Betsy Peters?
Well, I agree with paying them adequately or well, whatever. So like I say, we've just increased that. And I think that's helping Chief Schluty recruit new people and hopefully hang on to the old people. And that's maybe old is the wrong word, our experienced people. As far as not being negative, I know, it's a hard balance. I mean, if people want to get up and complain at city council meetings, that's a problem, but it's a public hearing, and they have the right to speak. Lots of times we'll just say, can you look into this to the city manager? You don't really want to get in a fight with them, or just say, well, we're going to wait and see what, see what comes out of whatever if there's some report or some evaluation of what police officers have done. I mean, there's this whole protocol that they go through if there's a question. So we need to let that play out before we make any decisions. We don't know. I mean, that's what that whole protocol is to look at the video cameras and to get the information. So you need to let that play out before you have an opinion on it.
Robert Schreiber, so how do we support the police while at the same time allowing them to hear citizens' concerns about them?
Well, I think funding the police and all of our safety services is paramount. We have to retain the good police that we have, and so that we have that institutional knowledge and knowledge of the community that goes a long way in helping relations between police and citizens. I liked your idea about or expanding the police review board with people that are not one side or the other, but that can just speak to what the issues are. And of course, citizens can voice their opinions like in any other council meeting.
So this could be considered a follow-up to David's question about cleaning up the homeless encampments, et cetera. I think a couple weeks ago, the council just awarded a contract to Como Mobile Aid Collective to sort of do a community outreach, that's kind of the mobile version of something like Turning Point. And frequently Como Mobile Aid will go into these camps and will provide food, medical care, and along with that, the other organizations provide food, water, shelter, everything for human existence except sanitation. And I'm just like, I don't get this. I mean, we have garbage pickup in front of our home. We spent the last 3 years or 3 decades paying roll calls. Sanitation is the most basic thing, and to have these nurses going into these camps to make sure people don't get frostbite or make sure their wounds are covered and not be able to back that up with some sanitation, just, I don't understand it. And my question is, why not contract for sanitation on private property too? I'd be okay if my tax dollars were going to help Royce Palmer over here at Columbia Appliance clean that huge mess up in back of his place. I'd be totally okay. I mean, we can send people to the moon. Elon Musk wants to send people to Mars, but we can't clean up homeless camps. This is crazy. So that's my question. Could the city council contract with sanitation while human services for homeless?
All right, so I'll repeat this. The question deals with much is provided for the unhoused population, but we seem to ignore the fact that they need sanitation. And let's see, I believe it is Betsy Peters first up on this, is it not?
I think it's Lisa, but I'm okay with that. I like how I'm passing the
You know
mic
what?
to-
I think you might be right, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm not sure why we don't do it, but I can certainly ask. I mean, if it's picking up trash, that's one thing. You know, like if we're talking dumpsters, if it's providing like public toilets and sewers are a big deal.
Probably mostly trash.
But if it's mainly trash, I guess if we contracted with a private entity, but I'm not sure who pays for that then. Although, as you pointed out, you're okay with your tax dollars paying for it.
Well,
So, yeah. So, it's a thought. And I think probably working with Como Mobile Aid is a good idea because they seem to know where most of the camps are. At least that's my understanding.
Robert Schreiber, the question points out a gap here in the service for the unhoused. What's your thought?
Well, yes, I believe that we should have sanitation in these camps. The problem is that if you're going to one day have sanitation and all these services in the camps, and then the next day go in and clear them out, then what are we doing then? We need long-term solutions for these problems. But yeah, we need to keep the areas clean, keep people clean, keep them healthy. But if we're just going to go in the next day and toss them off where they've been living, I just don't see a long-term solution here. But I like the idea about you paying more taxes and we can try to solve this.
I think that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, he didn't say he wanted to pay more, but that's okay. Lisa Meyer, your answer to this problem in question.
Well, there are so many layers of issues connected with helping people who either want to be helped or don't want to be helped. And the cleaning up, and I've helped with some of these litter pickups, and whoa, are they some jobs, big time.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure on the private property side if that would actually be a public, a public
use of, right, yeah.
responsibility and use of dollars. But on the public side, it's an excellent question. And it seems like there should be something to even help us make the cleanup easier, but I'm not sure what. So I don't have the answer, but I would want to ask people who are experienced, and we've put a lot of money into unsheltered. That seems like something that we should be able to figure out.
As a follow-up to that, I do remember talking to Mr. Seawood about this. I think the last time they cleaned up one of the homeless camps north of Home Depot, and they couldn't get in there to get the trash out. That was part of the problem, is that there are no roads to where the homeless were staying. And so it was, you couldn't access it. Because I remember saying, just talking about it, these same questions, they always keep coming up because, you want to be compassionate, but it's a public health problem. And I believe he was like, we're having a lot of trouble getting in there. We can't get in there to clean stuff up, or we're having to
do clearing with them.
they have to clear
You do.
to get in there. I mean, they do a pretty good job of trying to be,
We've got time maybe for one and maybe two, but yes.
I want to say the R word.
sorry.
It started when recycling wasn't running, and in dealing with the Condominium Association that I'm affiliated with, which is also in Ward 2. It's been costing us $500 to $700 a month to haul away contraband and clean rock at dumpsters, because people are just leaving it free, and then you have the streets that run off. But we know just behind that some well-meaning homeowner, somebody gave a trailer to some homeless people to live in, and then police ran them off of our private property. They left their debris behind, so then the debris began to build up there. But it brings up a problem with roll carts. People don't know that they can't overfill them, and it won't be taken away. So what is the city going to do about the extra dumping that's going to continue to occur? People are just dumping stuff. It's not just homeless. That the private property owners or the condominium owners are going to have to continue to pay to haul away their own stuff.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be something done with the trash law and violations of those, because it's an exponential in the last year. What we have to do.
So the question deals with something that might become more of an issue, because roll carts, which are being distributed now, you've got to be able to close the lid. Can't pile stuff around the outside of them, but some people will. If they don't want to do that, they may take them to a condominium or an apartment complex and just dump their excess there. Lisa Meyer, I'm going to get to start with you this time, and you can tell us your thoughts from a council position, what to do with that.
One question that I would have for our utilities administrator is, how come we can't put trash on top? Because they could in Platte City and other places that I've lived that have roll carts. So that's one question that I have, because I have seen roll carts work, and I've seen when you have too much that you can put your trash bag on the top or on the side and they will take it. So that's a question that I have and I don't know the answer to. I am also concerned, a piece of that is this, go from trash and let's just go to litter. Our city has so much litter. I mean, so much litter. And on occasion, a couple of Ward 2 people will mention it, and they are like, my heart is happy, because I'm like, oh, good, I'm not alone. We have so much litter. If you just go down right now, I think it's on Range Line, 2 trash bags are just right there in the middle of the median. So it will be up to volunteers. We have like about 300 volunteers in Columbia through the volunteer department that go out and pick up litter all the time. It'd be really fantastic if we could get an answer to that, as well as if we could do something to actually have litter be enforced. I mean, people just throw stuff out the window. It's happened. There's a volunteer who was picking up litter who had somebody at a stop sign just throw the litter out. Like, yeah, add this to your bunch. It's real.
Betsy Peters, your thought on this issue?
Well, I'm still going to go with that. We need to get roll carts out and running and see how that works, but it's not going to take care of the mattresses or the broken furniture and but I don't have an answer for that. I mean, at the moment, for a while, the city picked up anything you put on the curb. And the problem with that was they picked up anything you put on the curb, and it was sort of out of control also. I don't have a good answer for people that aren't responsible, that don't. You get one free pickup a year, I think it is. So if they would just put it out on the curb and call, then that would be fine. That would be responsible. But obviously, these are not responsible people. I don't have a good answer. I can tell you, we had a couch that went down a ravine over in my neighborhood, and the city said they couldn't do anything about it. So my neighbor went down and dug through it and found the receipt and the guy's name and called him and told him to come and pick up his couch. And he did, actually. So I don't think that's going to work regularly, but it was sort of a nice story for our neighborhood anyway.
Robert Schreiber, last word on this.
With roll carts, there is a learning curve. There are people that want them to work. There are people that don't want them to work. So I think the longer that we have them, the more it's going to work, because it works in other cities. We know this. I used to live in St. Louis. I used to go to St. Louis during the summertime to see my dad, and we had roll carts there. Ashland, where I grew up, it has roll carts now. Cities can make this transition, and I think Columbia will. And the people, because you're allowed the different sizes, and people are, as it goes on, people will figure out which size they need. And I think that will help with that. As far as your question about the hotbeds of trash dumping, maybe the city could put some roll-offs there that would help with that. I don't know if they could do it for free. Maybe they could do some. I mean, at the apartment complex that I work at, Terra, we have 2 roll-offs. They're there year-round because we have 2 different big seasons. One when students move out in the summertime, and one right before Christmas. And those things fill up. If we didn't have those there, then yeah, I would be moving couches. I still have to move all the couches, but at least they're there for me to put them in.
We're out of time. No more questions. I'm going to predict that there will be other candidate forums before the election in April. So you will have an opportunity, if you didn't get your questions asked then, to ask them. Final 60 seconds for each of you. Lisa Meyer, we'll start with you. How would you like to end your comments to this group tonight?
Well, I would like to thank everybody for staying so late and for listening and participating. And my core issues are safety, infrastructure, health, and well-being. And I hope to earn your vote on April the 2nd.
All right. Betsy Peters, your final comment tonight.
I appreciate being invited to this forum. I've been disinvited to some because, no one's running against me. And I'm very happy for that. I look forward to the opportunity to represent the 6th Ward and continue to hopefully work to make Columbia a great place to live.
Robert Schreiber?
Yeah, I am just happy everybody came out, stayed so late again. My core issues are affordable housing, infrastructure, and public transportation. And I hope to see everybody get out to the polls on April 2nd.
Wow. Quick final statements. I will echo what was said. Thank you all for being here and for participating. Thank you, 3 candidates, for being here. Thank you to the Board of Realtors for sponsoring this first forum of the election season. We wish you all good luck, and it'll be fun to see as this evolves and as you have more opportunities to see how this progresses, and best of luck to all of you. So thank you and good night.
Thank you.